Okay, Cody. So we're going to be doing something interesting here today. As indoor farmers, we are going to be reviewing a scene from a movie. I know you're a pretty big movie guy.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, so I'm sure you're probably familiar with this movie. It's the movie The Martian with Matt Damon.
Yeah, I've watched a little bit of it. Never. It's always come kind of clips on TV when it came out, but I don't think I've ever watched it all the way through. So.
Okay. Well, you're going to be seeing this scene. Matt Damon is stranded on Mars during this time, and he realizes that he's going to have to grow his own food. So this is the scene where he basically makes his own indoor farm or greenhouse on Mars. So we're going to go ahead and roll the clip.
Okay.
Surprise. I did not die on Sol 18. If the oxygenator breaks, I'm going to suffocate. If the water reclaimer breaks, I'll die of thirst. If the hab breaches...
Okay, so he's just talking about how he's stranded right now, and then...
And if by some miracle none of that happens, eventually I'm going to run out of food.
All the ways that he could possibly die, and how he's going to have to come up with a way to actually get food for 3 years, is what he's saying.
I'm not going to die here. Our service mission here was supposed to last 31 souls. For redundancy, they sent 68 souls worth of food. That's for 6 people. So for just me, that's going to last 300 souls, which I figure I can stretch to 400 if I ration. So I got to figure out a way to grow 3 years worth of food here.
Yeah, pretty lucky that they have fresh potatoes there, not freeze-dried, so we can actually plant them.
On a planet where nothing grows. Luckily.
And apparently he is a botanist, so that's definitely helpful for him. Oh. All right, so here's the first place that we really want to stop, I think. It appears that he is going into the garbage, I guess, so to speak, on Mars, and he's pulling out human excrement, feces, poop, whatever you want to call it. So what he's doing with the shovel now is called tilling. This is something that is important for soil-based farming. Given that we run an indoor farm, we don't actually have to till anything. We just use water and nutrients to grow our plants. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. He is mixing up poop and water, and he's creating a slurry. What's he going to use this slurry for, Cody?
Yeah, so he's making a fertilizer. One thing that you can do with feces, especially cow manure, is probably the biggest one, is you can make fertilizer. The Martian soil it's definitely missing most. It probably has a lot of the minerals you need to survive, as some studies have shown this, but it's missing that reactive nitrogen that you really need to grow plants. But human waste has plenty of it, and the one issue you can have with this is that, especially human waste, and potato being like a root vegetable and growing in the ground, is you don't want it touching those really dangerous microbes that are in your feces. But being in space, and he got them from outside, is they're freeze dried, so actually it kills all the bacteria. So if it's pretty disgusting, but it's probably safe to do it. I mean, obviously I'm choking here, but the only other thing I want to say about the soil, Martian soil in particular, it was actually discovered after this movie was filmed, or maybe it was the book. I can't remember which one, but the soil contains this thing called perchlorates, and what is it's kind of dead way to breathe and dead way to eat. One issue with planting stuff in the soil is if it's got anything dangerous that's not going to kill the plant, like some heavy metals and some chemicals, is that it can be transferred to you after you eat it. But the perchlorates can do that. But it was actually discovered that if you just rinse the soil out with water, you can actually get all the stuff out. So even if it doesn't show them doing that, even when you do your suspension of disbelief for the movie, it's still safe. You can reasonable that you could actually use the soil and enrich it with that human waste.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think now is a good time to talk about what do plants actually need to grow. And plants need a few things to grow. So they're going to need nutrients, which is why he's mixing up this fertilizer mixture. Believe it or not, plant roots actually need oxygen. That's part of the reason why you add things like perlite to your soil mixes when you're growing plants at your house. Those are those little kind of like white pieces that you see in the soil mixtures. Those are to help provide aeration or oxidation to help with your plant roots. They obviously need water, so he's going to have to use some sort of water or something moist, something wet. And then finally, the leaves are going to need sunlight for photosynthesis. So we'll have to see how he does that a little later on in this video.
Yep, dicing them up. Right, rationing out the fertilizer.
Yeah, so using a little bit of fertilizer for each potato is probably a decent way to go, and dicing up those potatoes is probably a good way to go in regards to maximizing the amount of food supply he can hopefully get out of the limited number of potatoes that he has there. There we go. He's adding water.
The problem is water. I have created 126 square meters of soil. But every cubic meter of soil requires...
So in this section, he's talking about how he needs to make water at this point to actually continue to irrigate the soil that he's using. Pause it for a second. He talks about how it's a simple formula. Water is H2O, hydrogen, and oxygen. Obviously, we don't have to make our own water on Earth. It just falls from the sky. Or, I mean, in our case, we can just get it from the sink. So that's pretty good. If you want to talk about the chemical reaction he uses, I know you know.
Yeah, keep going with it and show it.
Liters of unused hydrazine at the NDB. If I run the hydrazine over an iridium catalyst, it'll separate into N2 and H.
I just wanted to point out real quickly, we can see that the roof is retracting here, and we can see that there's glass. So this is evidently how the plants are getting their sunlight here.
Yeah, one thing to note about about Mars is that it only gets about 40% of the sunlight that Earth kind of gets. It would be pretty similar to trying to grow plants in the probably northern Canada, middle of winter almost. There's actually a greenhouse called the Arthur Clarke greenhouse that simulates the Martian sunlight. It's up in northern Canada. But there's plenty of lights around here. It's kind of reasonable to believe, especially if he's a botanist, that they probably have grow lights to supplement that kind of poor sunlight. So probably in the combination of the two, that you can kind of see those white lights all kind of around. It's probably providing plenty of light for them. And potatoes are particularly sun hungry, so you definitely need some more light than just what the sun can provide.
I do want to point out here, I'm a little concerned about these quote-unquote grow lights that we're talking about here. Our grow lights that we have in the BioDome, plants, specifically leafy or flowering plants, will need light that's on the red and the blue spectrum. So typically when you see grow lights, they'll have a little bit of a pink or a purplish tinge to them. And I'm really not seeing any evidence that these lights that he has here are true to the types of grow lights that we use. We can actually show you some pictures of the grow lights that we use, or some of the pinker ones that they used to be before they moved over to a bit different of a spectrum that we have now.
H2. And then if I just direct the hydrogen into a small area and burn it. Luckily, in the history of humanity, nothing bad has ever happened from lighting hydrogen on fire. NASA hates fire because of the whole fire makes everybody die in space thing.
that's.
I don't think we've ever had an explosion inside our greenhouse. So.
Actually, we have had an explosion inside of our greenhouse, but it was not fire related. Funny story, the very first time we were testing our aeroponics system, Cody had designed, it was high pressure aeroponics system. We were running everything at 110 PSI, which is a ton of pressure. And we were running our very first test, and I'm standing right in front of everything. Yeah. And we told our other person, our electrical engineer who was there with us, we said, okay, hit it, Juan. And it blew up in my face. I got 20 gallons of water rushed at my face at in about 2 seconds flat. So
yeah, the pipe was just full of air. So what you're supposed to do is kind of let the low pressure water in, and then get the air out, and then let the water in, and then it won't burst the pipes. But the one solenoid we have just didn't open slow, so it just let it all at once and just popped the pipes apart. But yeah, I don't think it didn't throw you as far as he did.
No, definitely not. Okay, so he has successfully made water, and you can see that the condensation has occurred on the inside of the greenhouse. This is definitely something that happens. It happens with the BioDome. It actually happens all the time. It's part of the greenhouse effect that occurs.
It's been 48 sols since I planted the potatoes, so now it's time to reap and re-sow. They grew even better than I expected. I now have 400 healthy potato plants. I dug them up, being careful to leave their plants alive. The smaller ones I'll reseed, the larger ones are my food supply. All natural, organic, Martian-grown potatoes. You don't hear that every day, do you?
Okay, he's got some decent-looking potatoes, and he's going to replant some of the smaller ones so that he can continue to grow more potatoes.
Yeah, I mean, potatoes are a great sustenance food. They were favored by most of the world once they got them off the New World. They're used by basically everyone, peasant farmers alike, and because they last a long time after you plant them. If you take them out of the soil, they last a long time. They can last. Definitely more like if you get by them in the supermarket, they're a little bit old, but you can probably make them last 6 to 8 weeks longer. Not to mention that you can actually he rips them all out at once and kind of takes them apart, but you can leave them in the ground for a pretty long time to keep them fresher, and then kind of harvest them as you need them. Not to mention that the other thing you can do is you can always just throw them outside and freeze dry them, maybe keep them alive a little bit longer. But yeah.
Yeah. All in all, overall thoughts about the video.
Yeah, I mean it's a very like comprehensive, he kind of goes steps through, solves the problem by problem. He has the soil, it's not quite good, so he fertilizes it, then he needs water, and then he makes a pretty intuitive solution by combining the hydrogen fuel and burning it off to create the condensation, and then watering all the plants, and then it's just very almost pretty comprehensive about how he does it step by step.
Okay, so if we were going to rate this in terms of scientific accuracy for indoor farming, what would we give the rating for this out of 10?
I would say the only thing I didn't really like was maybe the lights, just kind of like doesn't really like show that kind of how the sun is different from Earth and Mars, and then doesn't really explain the glow lights. But overall, I think like 7, 8 out of 10. I mean, it's pretty good there. So
I think I would agree there, especially since at the time of the filming of the movie, like you said, they didn't know about the toxins within the Martian soil. So I think we're probably an 8 or a 9 out of 10. There might be some issues with the lighting, but yeah.
So I'm Jara.
And I'm Cody. And this has been a review of The Martian by Indoor Farmers.
So if you like this video, feel free to go ahead and like and subscribe. It really helps us grow as a company, as a channel. And if you're in the Pennsauken area, the southern New Jersey, the Philadelphia area, please feel free to come by and come see the BioDome yourself. Thank you.